Welcome to Sydney, Australia's oldest, largest and most cosmopolitan city. When Captain Arthur Phillip's first fleet arrived in 1788, he described Sydney Harbour as the finest harbour in the world. Sydney-siders and visitors agree, and that's one reason why Sydney is so special.
Looking out on a Sydney morning, watching waves crash on the shoreline. There's nowhere else in this whole world that I have ever been that makes me feel so fine. You're my city of smiles. You make me smile all the while. Sydney, you're so beautiful. Sydney, you're so beautiful. There's no other place I'd rather be.
Many Sydney-siders travel to work by ferry. Sightseers also crisscross the harbour on one of the world's busiest ferry fleets, which includes high-speed jet cats. The ferry terminal at Circular Quay is near the point where the first European settlers stepped ashore just over 200 years ago. Today, large ocean liners like the QE2 dwarf the ferries in Sydney Cove. Every year, as part of the Festival of Sydney, a ferry boat race is held. The ferrython starts at the Harbour Bridge, continues down the harbour and back again. This is the only race of its kind in the world, providing action and excitement for those aboard and onlookers. Weekend sailors always create a lively spectacle. Everyone can afford to enjoy the harbour on small boats or large. Go solo on a windsurfer or join a crew, it's up to you. There's always somewhere different to go, even if it's up in the air. Every Boxing Day you can witness the start of the Sydney to Hobart Yacht Race, one of the world's most challenging sailing events. Jostling past thousands of pleasure craft, the fleet sails through the heads. With billowing spinnakers, the yachts head south to Tasmania in this blue water classic. You can see why Sydney is a sailor's paradise. The greatest sailing day ever on the harbour was Bicentennial Day 1988, Australia's 200th birthday. People gathered on or around the harbour to greet 11 square-rigged sailing ships that had reenacted the voyage of the first fleet, which set out from Portsmouth in England. The strenuous 9-month passage retraced the route sailed 200 years earlier. The ultimate reward for the cruise was a welcome they would never forget. Members of the royal family, Prince Charles and Princess Diana, joined government leaders and the people in the celebrations. The Parade of Sail was another bicentennial highlight. Tall ships from Australia and many other nations sailed in line to make this a day to remember. A young city celebrates, not forgetting the original inhabitants of the Sydney area. Aborigines lived in tribes for over 30,000 years before the Europeans came and changed their lifestyle forever. Sydney was established as a penal colony. Convicts were sent from the United Kingdom due to overcrowding in the jails. The British Home Secretary, Lord Sydney, was responsible for the transportation of convicts, and the new settlement at Sydney Cove adopted his name. Free settlers followed, and the rest is history, which can be rediscovered at the Rocks. This is the site of the first buildings, the birthplace of Australia. Some 19th century buildings have survived, such as Cadman's Cottage. Built in 1816 on the shores of Sydney Cove, it's the oldest house in Sydney and is open to the public. By the end of the 19th century, the Rocks and nearby Millers Point had a reputation for houses of ill repute and bawdy taverns. The Hero of Waterloo, built in 1840, is Sydney's oldest pub. Like the sailors of long ago, you can drop in for a beer and a yarn, or wander down to the Lord Nelson, Sydney's oldest hotel. The Sydney Cove Authority preserves and restores old buildings and plans new development. The Rocks Markets open on Saturdays and Sundays. It's just the place to buy arts and crafts and be entertained. Wander into restaurants and shops in converted terrace houses and warehouses. The Rocks is a favourite with visitors of all ages. Here you can discover the delights of early Sydney while dining or visiting galleries and museums. The Argyle Centre specialises in quality Australian products. Once this was a bond store warehouse where barrels of rum were unloaded in the cobblestone courtyard. The Rocks has plenty of shops with a distinctly Australian flavour. The nation's heritage is preserved here and just across the water at Fort Denison, which was once a rocky island called Pinchgut, a place to punish convicts on starvation rations. A fort with cannons aimed down the harbour was built in 1880. Macquarie Street is Australia's greatest thoroughfare, with some of Sydney's finest monuments and public buildings. This grand street was named after Governor Lachlan Macquarie, who did much to improve early Sydney. Today you're likely to see barristers in wigs and gowns hurrying off to the courts near St James Church. Designed by convict architect Francis Greenway, it was built in the 1820s. St James is the City of Sydney's oldest church. Its once tall steeple now dwarfed by Sydney Tower. Another of Greenway's colonial masterpieces is just across the road. Hyde Park Barracks is a museum of the early history of Sydney and New South Wales. When it opened in 1819, it was used as a dormitory for male convicts. Upstairs, you'll see hammocks swinging from the timbers in one of the nation's finest early buildings. The Mint Museum is where coins were once made. Now it has fascinating collections of coins, stamps and decorative arts. Mounted police pass Sydney Hospital on the way to the New South Wales Parliament House. You can visit Australia's oldest parliament and see the state's politicians in action. The State Library is the nation's first public library with the best collection of works on Australia. In the late 19th century, wealthy residents built grand townhouses in Macquarie Street. Today, only a few remain. Macquarie Street has many superb sandstone buildings, including what was once the Colonial Secretary's office. One Colonial Secretary was Alexander Macleay, who built and moved into Elizabeth Bay House in 1838. Then considered the finest house in the colony, it is now maintained by the Historic Houses Trust of New South Wales. It's just 10 minutes from the city centre, and each room takes you back to the 1840s. A feature of the house is the superb elliptical staircase. You can visit Elizabeth Bay House from Tuesdays to Sundays, which is also when Vaucluse House is open. This early 19th century Gothic mansion is about 8 kilometres from the city centre. Once it belonged to William Charles Wentworth, known as the father of the Australian Constitution. The 15 rooms are lavishly furnished in mid-19th century style. The kitchen, with sandstone floors and huge fireplace, is probably the largest you'll ever see in what was a private house. Upstairs, time stands still in the bedrooms, including the master bedroom, complete with 4-poster bed. Make sure you include a visit to Vaucluse House and other historical homes open to the public in your travels. St Andrew's Cathedral is next to Sydney Town Hall, which opened in 1889. After renovations, it reopened in 1992 during the City of Sydney's sesquicentenary celebrations. The imposing multifunction Centenary Hall has the grand organ as its centrepiece. The colourful vestibule is illuminated by a 2,000-piece crystal chandelier hanging from a stained glass dome. The council chamber is for local government. Aldermen plan the city's future here, while the past lives on in Sydney's finest civic building. Directly opposite the town hall is another Victorian masterpiece. The Queen Victoria Building, built in 1898, occupies a whole city block. International fashion designer Pierre Cardin described it as the world's most beautiful shopping centre. The sheer size and elegance, plus the nearly 200 shops and restaurants, make this a Sydney attraction not to be missed. While you're in the area, visit the Strand Arcade between Pitt and George Streets. It too has been restored to its former glory. Wander past delightfully interesting shops and cafes in Sydney's finest shopping arcade. Shops in the city centre offer just about everything, including duty-free shopping with among the best prices in the world. Department stores offer a wide selection of Australian and imported goods to suit every budget. Centrepoint is the city's largest shopping mall, located below Sydney Tower. Not all shopping is in the city centre, however. Most Sydneysiders shop in the suburbs. Regional centres like Chatswood have offices, specialty stores and large malls, supermarkets, discount and department stores. But the city centre maintains its popularity with Sydneysiders and tourists, offering the widest variety of goods for sale. Here you can buy anything from t-shirts to exclusive designer label garments. You'll find more of these at Double Bay, about 10 minutes from the heart of the city. You can enjoy the village atmosphere over coffee or browse for imported clothing and accessories. Double Bay is worth a visit for an upmarket experience. The Sydney Opera House is a totally different experience. Located majestically on Bennelong Point, the roof shells resemble giant sails on the water. A Sydney landmark, it was the creation of architect Johan Utzon. Building commenced in 1959 and the Opera House opened in 1973. It's acknowledged as one of the world's great buildings, arguably the greatest building of the 20th century. on a tour and see a performance of the Sydney Symphony Orchestra, ballet, concerts, opera or drama. Then you'll really appreciate your visit to this magnificent symbol of Sydney. The city's other famous landmark is the Harbour Bridge. You can see why many call it the coat hanger. Built in 1932, it is still the largest and widest single-arch steel bridge in the world. The top of the arch is 134 metres above the harbour, and over 200,000 vehicles and trains make the crossing each day. The Harbour Tunnel opened in 1992 as the bridge had its 60th birthday. Now you can go under the harbour as well as over it. The bridge is the largest symbol of the harbour city. Skyscrapers also make an impact. Towering office buildings in the central business district establish Sydney's importance as the financial and business capital of Australia and the South Pacific. The MLC Tower at 68 stories is the tallest office building. You can see why many compare Sydney with New York City. The boom in skyscrapers reveals Sydney's growth as a major international business centre. And fortunately for office workers and visitors, there are plenty of parks and open spaces. In the plaza at Martin Place, you may be entertained while having lunch, or take a stroll past the banks and the General Post Office, away from the traffic. At the cenotaph, the statues gaze down on the passing parade. For a different perspective, go 305 metres up Sydney Tower. It's the tallest building in the Southern Hemisphere and has revolving restaurants and an observation level. The view north is towards more offices across the harbour in North Sydney. To the east is Hyde Park and St Mary's, Sydney's largest cathedral. The green expanse of the Royal Botanic Gardens and Domain provides a welcome oasis in a landscape of glass and concrete. Office buildings extend southwards towards Central Railway Station. In the distance, planes land at Sydney Airport on the shores of Botany Bay. From here, it's not far to the inner suburbs and the city centre. To the west is Darling Harbour, with its exhibition and convention centres, shops and restaurants. A fun way to get there is by monorail, linking the city centre with Darling Harbour. Come aboard and ride the monorail along 3.5 kilometres of track. The round trip of all stations takes 12 minutes. Make sure you alight to see Sydney's greatest redevelopment and a major visitor attraction. The Harbourside Marketplace pavilions have 200 shops, restaurants and fast food outlets. They're open 7 days a week and close late. It's hard to believe that this was once a derelict area of wharves and railway yards until it was transformed as Sydney's major bicentennial project. Darling Harbour is next to the busy city centre. It's a great escape with regular free entertainment and special events. You can easily spend a day here, and there's plenty to see within walking distance. Australia's colourful maritime history can be experienced in the National Maritime Museum. Opened in 1991, there are 5 general themes and exhibition spaces: Navy, Leisure, Discovery, Commerce and Passengers. More than 4,000 exhibits tell the story of the people, places and events of Australia's maritime past and present. Across the water you can go to the bottom of the harbour at Sydney Aquarium. Tanks include fish from all over Australia, including the Great Barrier Reef. As one of the world's largest and best aquariums, you'll be amazed at what you'll see. Crocodiles from Northern Australia will keep an eye on you too. In the two oceanariums, you'll observe marine life of the harbour and the open ocean. Walk underwater and be part of the Sharks Patrol. This is about as close as you'd ever want to get, and all without getting your feet wet. Then take an easy walk to the Chinese Garden of Friendship, the largest of its type outside China. Celebrating the goodwill between the Chinese people and Sydney, it recreates the world in miniature. Next to the city centre, you'll discover mountains, rivers, lakes and waterfalls. Buildings and pavilions set among the peaceful gardens are just across the road from busy Chinatown. Colourful Dixon Street is the heart of this area of restaurants and shops. Cooking styles from all over China can be enjoyed in takeaway meals or sit-down banquets. Chinatown is conveniently close to the Sydney Entertainment Centre and George Street movie theatres. Enjoy the oriental atmosphere or go for a leisurely stroll through the avenues of trees in Hyde Park. Sit and relax near the Archibald Fountain. Figures from Greek mythology appear to be showering in Sydney's best-known fountain. Named after Hyde Park in London, it was once the city's first racecourse. You can enjoy a leisurely pace or something more challenging. Hyde Park South has the Sydney War Memorial, and nearby is another leafy expanse. The Royal Botanic Gardens once was the site of Australia's first farm. It's great for a picnic or to wander among plants and trees from Australia and the Pacific. Birds flock here and share the gardens with joggers and nature lovers. Art lovers will always find something of interest at the nearby Art Gallery of New South Wales. The state's best collection has European art and works by Australians, including those by Aborigines and painters like Tom Roberts, who captured landscapes of early Australia. Russell Drysdale is best known for his outback paintings, and Sir William Dobell is recognised as our greatest portrait painter. Sidney Nolan's works hang in galleries around the world, and Sydney is no exception. Contemporary art and sculpture by Australian and overseas artists is on display, and special exhibitions of travelling works are regularly held, so make sure to pay a visit. The Museum of Contemporary Art opened in the Rocks in 1991 and houses the Power collection and other visual arts. This will give you a new perspective on the art of contemporary life. The Powerhouse Museum has exhibits on the themes of transport, science, technology, decorative arts and social history. The largest museum complex in the Southern Hemisphere is near Darling Harbour. You'll find the hours slip by as you discover many fascinating displays. At the Australian Museum in College Street, you'll see the nation's largest natural history collection. There's something for everybody, including exhibits on the Pacific Islands and Australian Aborigines. If you prefer to walk on the wild side, come up to King's Cross. The Cross has a busy village atmosphere by day with streets, shops and cafes packed with locals and tourists. Buy fruit from a colourful street barrow and wait till dark when the Cross really comes to life. The nightlife centre of Sydney is where anything and often everything goes. Dance the night away at a disco. Aussies like a beer and having a good time. You'll find both at a local pub. If you'd rather throw a steak on the barbecue and have a beer, find a pub with a beer garden. Enjoy a schooner with the locals and find out if they're friendly. If you're staying in a hotel, Sydney has a wide selection. The Hotel Intercontinental Sydney overlooks the city's spectacular harbour, botanic gardens and opera house. This historic landmark building incorporates the historic 1850s Treasury buildings, faithfully restored to their former glory. A warm welcome awaits guests at Sydney's leading deluxe hotel, voted Sydney's best for 2 consecutive years. The soaring sandstone arches of the courtyard lobby form a dramatic backdrop to Sydney's favourite meeting place. Dining in Sydney is a stylish affair at the Treasury restaurant. The menu features the best of Australia's fresh produce with an award-winning wine cellar. The setting is pure elegance. Sketches Bar and Bistro displays and sells the work of Australia's best-known black and white artists. Guests actually guide the chef in producing their favourite pasta dish. Sydney is renowned for fresh seafood, and the Cafe Opera offers a wide selection in brasserie style. The Hotel Intercontinental Sydney is a truly unique hotel. Some visitors from overseas and the Australian bush have a permanent home at Taronga Zoo. Australian native animals are favourites with visitors, especially the koala. Eucalypt leaves and trees are what they like best, and some don't like all the attention and get camera shy. Dingoes roam the outback and the zoo with some 4,000 other animals. Kangaroos and smaller wallabies take it easy, while baby kangaroos, or joeys, get a free ride in the pouch. Some Australian animals aren't quite as cuddly. This is one of the world's great zoos, and to reach the wildest place in Sydney, catch a ferry for 12 minutes from Circular Quay. You'll then see why this is called Taronga. That's Aboriginal for view across the water. Unlike the giraffes, you don't have to stretch your neck to see why. Now, what about the people who live in Sydney? They might be found at a licensed club playing the poker machine, or pokies. Don't get upset if you lose 20 cents. You can win a lot more, and even jackpots worth thousands of dollars, if you're lucky. Clubs like this provide lavish facilities for members and guests, including inexpensive entertainment and meals. So why not visit a club? Sydney also offers an incredible variety of restaurants. This multicultural city has cooking styles from nearly every nation on earth. You may prefer a la carte by the harbour, or a casual lunch in an outdoor cafe. Asian cooking is popular, including Chinese, Japanese, Indonesian, Indian and Thai. Chinese restaurants are in every suburb, and here at the Rocks, the Imperial Peking Harbourside has sumptuous seafood. Add some great Australian wine and lunch or dinner can be a memorable experience. Outside dining is sensible on a hot summer evening. Thai cooking is popular, and like many in Sydney, this is a BYO, or bring your own wine restaurant. Bring your friends and family too. The versatility of Italian cuisine makes it Sydney's most popular European style, whether you're having a pizza or pasta, and the dessert is worth waiting for. In some restaurants, the menu is only surpassed by the views, here overlooking the northern beaches. Doyle's at Watson's Bay is right on the beach. Sydney's internationally famous seafood restaurant has relaxed dining in what must be one of the best locations anywhere. An outside table looking down the harbour is the place to be. Sydney is renowned for its harbour and beaches. The best known is Bondi. Some get there early for a jog or swim before going to work. Sydney has some 30 beaches. Bondi is the closest to the city centre and very popular. You might have to share it with 30,000 others on a hot summer day. If you get into trouble in the surf, you'll be rescued by a volunteer lifesaver. These men and women meet for friendly competition at surf carnivals. The surf clubs provide a different day at the beach for onlookers. With so many beaches, no wonder surfing is popular, and Sydney has some of the world's best. Beaches with smaller waves are in the harbour. At Nielsen Park during the week, those lucky enough not to be working enjoy themselves not far from the city centre. It's easy to be enchanted by the natural beauty. Camp Cove near Watson's Bay was the first landing place of Europeans in the harbour. You can explore the warm sands and quiet waters. Across the water, Balmoral Beach is a favourite with people on the North Shore. Balmoral's parkland and beach are nestled in a quiet bay, not far from the heads. The northern beaches are renowned for their sand and surf. Manly Beach's popularity rivals Bondi. It's been a holiday resort suburb since the first ferries brought day trippers. The Manly Ferry takes 30 minutes from Circular Quay, and the holiday atmosphere soon takes over. Go for a stroll, shop, and have an ice cream along the Corso. There's always a few surprises. Go for a swim or just relax along the promenade feeding the seagulls. Travel north from Manly and you'll pass 13 other beaches on the way to Palm Beach. At Long Reef, 15 kilometres from the city centre, you can soar above the waves and the golfers below. Sydney's feeling of freedom is captured here. The exclusive suburb of Palm Beach is 35 kilometres from the Harbour Bridge. Barrenjoey Lighthouse, built in 1881, marks the end of Sydney's golden beaches. On the other side of Barrenjoey is Broken Bay, even larger than Sydney Harbour. The Hawkesbury River flows into the bay, and here you can hire a boat and go on a quiet cruise exploring the bushland waterways. If you want to get into the fast lane, put on your water skis. Sydney-siders love water sports, and World Championship events like this are held here. The laid-back outdoors lifestyle and mild climate make it possible to enjoy sports of all kinds all year round. Centennial Park, near the city centre, is great for jogging or galloping with the wind in your hair. Across the road, jockeys take their mounts through track work at famous Royal Randwick Racecourse. There's horse racing midweek and on weekends. Rosehill Racecourse has the Golden Slipper, Sydney's richest race. A fortune is bet with bookmakers and the tote, while others try their luck in the Fashion Stakes. With over $1 million to the winner, no one cheers louder than the trainer of the first horse past the post. A day at the races is packed with colour and excitement, which you'll also see on the City to Surf Fun Run. Each spring, over 40,000 people run from Town Hall down William Street to Bondi Beach, 14 kilometres away. The surf offers welcome relief, but you've got to make it first. Summer is the cricket season, and you'll find cricketers everywhere from the suburbs to a test match at Sydney Cricket Ground. Winter brings forth soccer players starting young. Rugby union is played at amateur level by schoolboys and their older brothers in district competition. Australia has won the Rugby World Cup, and this is where future champions come from. Rugby League has the biggest crowd following and can really get the spectators involved. The professionals battle through the club competition after the ultimate goal of winning a grand final. Australian Rules provides its own brand of excitement and action. There's touch football too. Maybe Sydney-siders are sports crazy, but why not with an abundance of sports facilities for all interests and abilities? You can appreciate the harbour waiting for the fish to bite, but a better way is on a harbour cruise. You'll see the backyards of Australia's most expensive homes, like Carthona, built in 1844 on the water's edge at Darling Point. Only a limited number of homes are absolute waterfronts. Most have plenty of floor space and you'll need millions to afford one. Then again, there are million-dollar views that can't be built out. Kirribilli House is the Prime Minister's Sydney residence and the Governor-General is the next-door neighbour at Admiralty House. Everyone wants a water view and blocks of home units put more people in touch with the harbour. Balmain has quaint terrace houses down to the water not far from wharves and shipping in the nation's busiest port. Walsh Bay's wharves are being redeveloped. The Sydney Theatre Company occupies one, and restaurants and shops at Pier 1 are new uses for wharves no longer used for cargo handling. The view from North Sydney is from Shore School, an independent boys' school where traditional straw boaters and grey uniforms contrast with the city skyline. About a quarter of Sydney's students attend independent or private schools, and 3/4 go to state or public schools. These students enjoy their school with a view. Middle Harbour suburbs offer wonderful views and a tranquil lifestyle for North Shore residents. Houses overlook the many bays and most have swimming pools, a wharf to tie up the yacht and fabulous views. This home overlooks aptly named Sailors Bay. After a day's sailing, you might relax around the pool or shoot some pool.
Well, I'm a keen yachtsman and living on the waterfront is an enormous benefit, taking the boat out. The harbour, I think, is absolutely delightful. It's a sailor's paradise.
Well, this is a wonderful place to live. We're only 5 miles from the city. We can do almost anything we want to do. We like living outdoors, and yet within 10 minutes we're in the heart of the city to do anything else that we want to do.
Not everyone can live near the water. However, many Sydney residents still live in style. This turn-of-the-century Federation-style house has grounds to relax in and elegant, comfortable interiors. The more humble bungalow is a popular style in the suburbs, combining 1920s charm with modern touches. Sydney-siders like making people feel welcome at home. In the upper North Shore, substantial homes are on large, leafy blocks. Being surrounded by bushland is the next best thing to being near the harbour. Paddington is a charming inner-city suburb, and Sydney's best example of renovated 19th century housing. The Victorian terrace houses with cast iron balconies make a delightfully quaint streetscape. There are also many interesting pubs, shops, superb restaurants and art galleries. Some 4 million people make Sydney their home. Suburbs stretch for over 50 kilometres from the city centre in one of the world's most sprawling cities. In the outer suburbs, new housing is developing on former rural land. Sydney-siders have a strong desire for houses on their own blocks of land. The 3-bedroom brick veneer house is popular in new suburbs. The westward sprawl ends at the Nepean River and the Blue Mountains. Magnificent bushland valleys and fresh mountain air are less than 2 hours' drive from the harbour. Katoomba is the main town, and nearby are many natural wonders, including the famous Three Sisters. A day trip or longer is a pleasant escape from the hectic pace of the city. There are many ways of descending into the valleys. Bushwalkers, campers and rock climbers discover another world. The city is surrounded by national parks. This is the best way to see native animals and enjoy the tranquility of the bush. You can be back in the city in the evening for a faster pace. Sydney has something for everyone. It's laid back and lively, fascinating and friendly, big and beautiful. Do you get the feeling you'd like to stay longer?
It's an amazing city because it has a bit of the best of all the world.
I travel a lot, but somehow Sydney has the atmosphere no other city in the whole world has.
Because most of our neighbours are very friendly and they're all Australian.
The biggest difference in Sydney to any other city in the world is the clarity of the air.
So far, everybody I've been in touch with has been extremely friendly.
Looking out on a Sydney morning, watching waves crash on the shoreline. There's nowhere else in this whole world that I have ever been that makes me feel so fine.